everybody, it's Professor Miller. Welcome to Pharmacology for Nursing, and I hope we have a great semester together. This video is going to cover the course syllabus real quick. I'm going to try to go over some of the important areas to kind of concentrate on. Obviously, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm very open to working with students, so anytime you need something, please do not hesitate in asking for any help or any support. So I'm going to quickly go through the course syllabus. So obviously this is winter semester 2019. The course is fully online and obviously runs from January to the end of April. You'll find my contact information on here. My office is located at 2031 Human Health Building. If you do need to meet by appointment, I'm kind of in and out. I practice actually over in athletics, so I'm on campus a lot, just kind of in different places. So if you do want to meet in person, we can absolutely do that. Just reach out to me and we can schedule a time to meet. Another thing too with online courses is the use of WebEx. It's very, very easy to use. We can meet in live time. I can share my screen with you and we can go through information that route as well. So that's another option if you ever need to meet. But like I said, always feel free to reach out to me. My office number is also located on here as well, but once again, I'm not there that often or I'm kind of in and out. So your best bet is to reach me through email. I do prefer for the course that we use the course internal email system that's located through Moodle, and it's on there's a link right on our course homepage. It just keeps things organized for me essentially because I have 3 sections in it. That way I know, what section you're in and all that. Otherwise it gets confusing. And also I get a lot of emails through my regular OU email and I don't want to miss anything. So I do prefer that we stick with internal email, but like I said, you can always email my regular OU account. If it's something urgent, don't hesitate. Just email my OU account because I do, get notifications on my phone and stuff. So if you need to get a hold of me, I'm completely fine with that as well. But I do check, the course email pretty frequently every day. I try to. So the description of the course, it focuses on major categories of drugs and the application of pharmacology-related concepts to clinical nursing practice. So we cover areas like pharmacokinetics, pharmacodynamics, and pharmacotherapeutics. The main thing with pharmacology, and if you haven't viewed it already, but there's a pharmacology study tip document that I added on there, is focusing on major drug classes. And this will get easier as we move through the course and kind of start working on systems. Like if we get into cardiac, it makes more sense because at the beginning of the class, we have more of the introductory concepts and it's difficult to do that. So once we start moving through, it'll make more sense to you. But you have to focus on classes. You can't study every individual drug and that'll make more sense as we move through. But, we look at physiologic actions, expected patient responses, what do we need to educate our patients on? What do we assess in these patients? What are the major side effects that we need to be aware of? And those implications for nursing practice. So in terms of course objectives, so it's really about examining that role, the nursing role related to drug therapy, and providing safe, quality patient care. So we'll take a look at pharmacotherapeutics, kinetics, and pharmacodynamics. And that's actually that first section of content that we'll cover at the very beginning of the course. And I'll do another quick video that covers that first section to kind of give you an idea of where or how to approach it. Because it's really important to understand that very intro level material in order to understand the rest of the class. So I'll explain that more, in another video. Examining the impact of adverse effects in drug interactions. The effects on the lifespan, lifestyle, environmental, and cultural considerations related to drug therapy, describing major classes of drugs by major body system, and that's kind of how the course moves along. And that's just the essential content, which I pretty much already kind of mentioned. General course policies, obviously technical requirements, because considering it's an online course. So we use Moodle for everything. Once I'm sure you've all logged into Moodle at this point, so everything runs through Moodle. Make sure that your browser's up to date, especially if you're going to take quizzes or your exam, make sure that you have good internet connection as well. Because everything is done through Moodle, our quizzes, our tests, etc. And I'll go through in more detail with another video as well. So the internal email, your grades, all that's going to be on Moodle. A technology backup plan, that's mainly if, if you have unreliable internet, obviously make sure they have a good connection when you go to take a quiz or something like that. But obviously if you have a problem, just reach out to me, if something happens or, you had an issue, just please let me know. And logging into Moodle, I'm sure you've already all done that because you're watching this, so I'm assuming that you've already logged into Moodle and looked at the course syllabus. OU does have the ELIS technology helpline. I have the number at the end of the syllabus, but there also is a website that you can access different links to through the OU website. But there is the help desk. If you're having difficulty, you can go ahead and reach out to them as too. Rules of etiquette, obviously respect your peers and colleagues and their privacy, use constructive criticism. We're here to work together as a team, so just keep it professional and no inflammatory comments, obviously. Academic conduct is kind of the same across the board with all OU courses in the School of Nursing. Obviously it's an online course and we have to maintain academic integrity, so even when we talk about exams or quizzes, these are all to be done independently, except in a certain circumstance like our forums or something like that where you're working together. But I'll kind of talk about that in the future. The American with Disabilities Act, there is the Office of Disability Support, and that's available through OU. If you need any specific accommodations, please let me know. And if you need to set up an appointment with them, there's a phone number listed below. And you can contact them in order to arrange an appointment. But let me know if you need anything, obviously. And student perception of faculty teaching at the end of the course. I put my own evaluation tool up there, like a survey that I hope that students will complete. And it's just to get your feedback about things that work or that don't work, and what you thought about the course or things that could be altered, essentially. But there is the one also through Oakland University that we also like you to complete because we appreciate that you put the time and attention to completing these for faculty. So obviously that's available at the end of the course as well. In terms of course requirements, there is a prerequisite of having your clinical anatomy and physiology. The big one too is pathophysiology. Pharmacology really does build off of, a lot of your knowledge of pathophysiology and honestly anatomy and physiology, which you've all had at this point. The one big thing, and I mentioned it too in our course Moodle site in one of the green Moodle books, is really linking that pharmacology with your patho, because it really will help you. It makes it more memorable, and if you know what it's being used for, you have something to tie it with. Plus, a lot of times, areas of pharm and how drugs work, essentially, a lot of it is working through our normal anatomy or physiology and pathophysiology. So it really does have that foundation there to, pharmacology. So if you do, I put a lot of different videos up to help review areas. If you feel you need to do that as we move through the course, obviously, take the time to do that as well. But pharmacology obviously is another area too that's foundational to your nursing practice. And it does take time. Pharmacology takes time to feel like you have a good grasp on it. So, you're not alone. It is a class that you kind of have to work towards, but you'll get there. In terms of the required textbook, it is Lean's Pharmacology for Nursing Care. There is the new 10th edition that came out a few months back. And if you do have the 9th edition, like from a previous student, or, you purchased the 9th edition, a used copy, that's completely fine. I have both editions, and they do have some updates in the new 10th edition, but it remains relatively the same. So that's not necessarily, if you want to get the 9th edition and it's a lot cheaper, you can go ahead and do that. You can order it from the OU bookstore, or you can also order it, from Amazon or wherever. You can rent as well. That's another thing too. If you feel that you want to rent the textbook, that should be okay as well. Because a lot of times once you're in clinical practice or rotations, you tend to use more electronic resources like Epocrates or a smaller handbook in terms of, instead of carrying a large textbook essentially. These are just recommended references. You don't need these for the course, but they're good tools to have on hand during clinical rotations, or you can also use it as a supplement to the course. Davis's Drug Guide for Nurses, that's a good clinical companion. It's a smaller like handbook essentially that you could use during clinic. And Epocrates and Up to Date are online or mobile resources that you can use, or you can use it through the internet. Epocrates is available free if you just do the pharmacology portion. Up to Date is relatively expensive, but you can get access if you go through the OU library system and use it online. So those are just other supplements that you can also take a look at as well. In terms of our course calendar, essentially I have it set up into modules. So each module will run over like a 2-week increment, and I have it set up into weeks as well, because a lot of students, with pharmacology having a lot of content, some students like to stay on that weekly schedule. And I honestly would recommend that you stay on a weekly schedule, because you can't wait till the last minute to try to make it through all that content that last week. Whether or not you take your quiz at the, the end of the week or wait until the second week, that's up to you. But try to stay on track with like that weekly schedule in terms of going through the content, because otherwise it's too easy to get behind. I do this mainly because it offers some flexibility with it in terms of, taking this course with other classes. And I traditionally teach the ASD students, so a lot of them work, and I know a lot of you guys still work. So I find that it makes it more flexible. So they run in modules, and basically, like our quizzes, they'll be open basically I'll have them open from Sunday to Sunday during that second week. So for instance, like this first module right here, it'll open on, I think it's the 6th, Sunday the 6th, and it'll be open till the 13th. So week 1 and 2 quizzes, they're separated because I separate them according to content. But you have that entire week to take them, and you could take them at any point, whenever you want, just before that Sunday evening, essentially. Our case discussions, we have one for each module as well. And the course basically runs the same. It's basically each module runs exactly the same. You'll have your quizzes and then a case discussion. And the case discussion I'll kind of go through when we go through the rubric, and I'll have more instructions on our Moodle site as well. This area, Principles of Pharmacology, is very, very important. You have to understand that in order to make sure that you will understand the further content that's covered through the course. So that's a really important area. The other area is drug therapy for the nervous system, mainly the peripheral nervous system, that first part that we cover. That's another really important area too, because a lot of drugs work through our nervous system. So we have to cover that at the beginning of the course in order to kind of go through other agents that are used. Like a lot of our cardiac meds and agents that we use for asthma, they work through the nervous system essentially. So we kind of have to cover it at the beginning. It is a harder portion of the course, I'm not going to lie, but once you kind of go through the lectures, it'll stick with you. It'll make more sense, but we have to cover it at the beginning. So we have that. And then we move into the CNS, so central nervous system, and then psychotherapeutic agents. Same exact thing. Like these will be due that second Wednesday, like that Wednesday of the second week, and then your follow-up post will be due by that Sunday evening, essentially. And then once again, this repeats. We go into fluid and electrolytes, and then our cardiac systems. This seems like a little bit of an odd place to put it, but we have to cover certain agents or certain vitamins that can impact some of the cardiac meds that we use. So I kind of put it in this section. And then after cardiac, then we have our midterm exam, which is online as well. It's non-cumulative, so it'll focus on material covered weeks 1 through 6. And I usually have the exam open all day. So that way, if you have another course during the day, you have, essentially that entire day to complete the quiz. Or I'm sorry, the exam. And I usually have it so it closes at midnight. It'll be open from early morning till midnight. But I'll cover more of that as we move through the class. I do typically hold a review. It kind of depends. I have 3 sections right now, so I probably will have like a pre-recorded review that I will post. Sometimes I'll do like a WebEx with students, but I find that a lot of students have different schedules and it can be difficult to meet. So as we get closer to that, I'll send out an announcement about it. And then right after the exam, we have winter break, so that's till the 24th. Then when we come back, we start moving into other systems like endocrine, respiratory, GI, and then we move into the immune system, which actually includes a lot of different areas like our antibiotics, antivirals, cancer chemotherapy, and we kind of move into other agents essentially. So it's spread out through those 3 weeks. The last week we do drug therapy for reproduction, so that's more of men's health, women's health. And there's not a quiz or anything for this last section because of the university policy. We don't have any quizzes or exams that week prior to final exam week. So if you look here, that week 12 and 13, so quizzes for this section will be due on the 7th. And then the study days on the 17th. The final exam I have scheduled on the 18th. This is not 100% set in stone because I do have to talk to administration just to make sure that it's not conflicting with your other courses. But again, it's online and it's open, all day essentially till midnight. But it's non-cumulative, same as the midterm, and I'll kind of go through more information about that as well. And, I'll make sure that that date is set in stone for you guys. In terms of assignments, we have essentially the case study discussions, our quizzes, and the exams. If you feel like you're having difficulty, please feel free to reach out to me, whether it's quiz questions or, difficulty with the case studies. Obviously, please reach out to me, and I can definitely help you. Once again, the midterm and final, I kind of went through that. A lot of the questions that are on the midterm and final are very similar in structure to the quizzes. So the quizzes are, think of them really as like a learning activity. And I always recommend that students go back, after the quizzes close and review those quiz questions because I put a lot of detailed feedback in there to kind of help you understand why the answer is what it is or why it's not. So once the quiz close, for that module, go back in and review the quiz questions and the feedback under there. Same thing for the midterm and final. I usually, after you can review the ones that you got wrong. But as we get closer to this, I will, go over that a little bit more. Quizzes, like I mentioned, they open during that second week of the module. So I'm going to have them open from Sunday to that, so that basically that Sunday at the end of the first week till the Sunday of the second week. And at any point during that week, you can take it prior to that closing date. And they close on that evening at midnight, essentially. There's one attempt. They're typically short. A lot of them, I would say, are probably right around like 10 or 12 questions. So they're not long. Usually you'll have 2 quizzes, but I just do that because I feel like it's easier to kind of keep it focused according to content areas. So they're not, super long quizzes or anything like that. But make sure you review them after it closes as well. Our case study discussions, I'll kind of explain this a little bit more too as we move through. It's basically the discussions are really tied to the content that's being covered, whether it's in your textbook or the lectures that I kind of present. And that's another thing too. Make sure I would start with the lectures, and I'll cover that in the other video as well. But really the case study discussions are to provide application of the course content. So a lot of times the case study questions will be given a certain scenario. A patient is prescribed such and such, or they're admitted for, this diagnosis. And, it'll look at certain areas of like what would we need to be, looking at within this patient in terms of side effects, or what's areas that need to be monitored in the patient. So it's really about applying that into clinical practice. And I will post essentially groups. It'll be sectioned out into groups, and it'll all be within that, located in that forum. The instructions will be in there with your certain group, and stay within your group. Basically, I'll have a question or a case study presented for each group essentially, and that's the group that you'll stay in for your first and second response. All of them are open for review. Like you can review, another group members or case study for the other group. Which I do recommend because it kind of helps you, hone in on those important concepts or certain areas that you should really be thinking about in terms of that material or the course material. So I'll have more detailed instructions on that too there. There's 6 total case studies because they go for each module because we have the 6 modules. They're 40 points, and they once again coordinate with the material, the lectures, and pharmacologic therapy pertaining to specific systems. So make sure that you are reviewing the lectures, before you answer, because otherwise your discussion question tends to not follow, the right areas. Because I found that sometimes students will look things up online and it's not necessarily the essential concepts that you should be focusing on. So if you go through like the lectures first and then the readings, it'll give you an idea of where to focus for it. This is the rubric that I use to grade the case discussions, and it's sectioned down into 3 areas. The big thing is making sure that you're, answering the questions appropriately. Did you tie in those pharmacologic concepts that we covered during lectures or your course readings? So just make sure that you're answering the question essentially. And, obviously there's, part of it's posting on time. So you obviously can read this. Appropriate use of evidence. And I give some examples within the forum when you open it up. So make sure you're using things like your textbook, or you can use things like Hippocrates or healthcare organizations. Just make sure you're not pulling things just randomly off the internet. You have to make sure it's evidence-based. And in terms of APA citations, I'll be honest, I am not super strict on APA citations. My whole thought process with this is for you to understand the main concepts and be able to apply it. I do expect you to put a quick citation at the bottom, but I'm not overly strict on like every little, period or dot or this or that. Just, do your best with it. And the big thing is making sure that you're using, appropriate references. And using your textbook is completely fine for that. So just, that's just some information. This is just our objective table, tying the assignments together, which really, honestly, all of them kind of meet all the course objectives. In terms of grading, the course quizzes are 25% of your total grade, your course midterms 30%, your final exams 30%, and then the case study discussions are 15%. Recently, there has been a change with that grade point policy, which I'm sure you're probably all aware of already. It's at 75% now, and we went to letter grades. So the letter grade, system is down here as well. So anything, below a 75%, unfortunately, is not passing for nursing. So we can't round up either. So if it's at 74.9, that unfortunately is considered failing. So that's just something to keep in the back of your mind. But I'm sure you've all, been introduced to this already last semester with the grading conversion scale. Professional behavior, I kind of mentioned this, at the beginning in terms of netiquette and the ANA scope and standards of practice. So you can review this. Emergency preparedness. Most of this applies to on-campus courses. Since it's an online course, we don't necessarily meet, but this is also, an area that you should review, considering that you're probably on campus a lot. There's a lot of videos that are available through the OUPD, their website. You can review them. There is notifications that you can sign up for with your cell phone, and then you get a text if there is an emergency or if there's, school closure or anything like that. So obviously let me know. And if there is school closure on, like an exam day, obviously I'll reach out to you guys about that. In terms of expectations, in order to be successful, make sure that you become familiar with the course structure and review the course introduction video, which basically is this. And then I'll have another quick little video that covers that first module. Review that pharmacology study tip document that I have located in Moodle, because this is really, really helpful as we kind of move through. Like I mentioned, you have to study drug classifications. You can't focus on each individual drug. Attend class meetings, which, they're all online pretty much. Participate in course discussions and activities. Those are pretty much our case studies. Make sure you stay caught up. That's the biggest thing. Pharmacology has a lot of content. So, don't wait until that last week to start reviewing lectures or videos. Make sure you start early, do one a day or something like that. So make sure you just stay up to date, essentially. Read and comprehend the textbook or any supplemental readings. And I do have some tips under that weekly readings on our Moodle page about how to approach the content in reading, essentially, because the book obviously is large. So the big thing is making sure, I would honestly start with like lectures and kind of read along concurrently, because it'll help you focus in your reading, because there's certain areas that you have to really understand, and those are the areas that I cover in the lectures or the video. So that'll kind of help you focus your reading in, essentially. Complete your quizzes, obviously, your exams on the scheduled dates. There's no makeup exams and there's no makeup quizzes. So, the exams are scheduled at the beginning of the semester. If you have something, going on, obviously make sure you notify me ahead of time, so that way if there's an issue, we can plan something. Make sure you review course quizzes after closing, because it definitely will help you understand some of the content a little bit more, or if you got one wrong, it'll help you understand why. Stay up to date with course announcements. This is also tied in with your OU email, so usually you'll get basically a link to that announcement within your OU email as well. Always ask for help if there's a question or if you need any clarification. I'm always here to help you. Respond to emails within 24 to 48 hours, respect rules of etiquette, and participate in a thoughtful manner. As your instructor, it's my responsibility to facilitate an effective learning environment through class activities, discussions, and lectures. Providing you with that grading scale and basically a formula, how your grades are derived. Information or informing students of policies, of attendance withdrawal, and academic conduct. If for some reason you do, need to withdraw or anything or drop the course, make sure you review the Oakland University deadlines, essentially, for that. Arrange to meet with students as required. So obviously, like I said, I'm always open to meeting with you, whether it's online or on campus. Just make sure you let me know. Moderate course discussions, respond to email. I'm usually really, really good about responding to email within 24 to 48 hours. I'm usually on there every day. If for some reason you don't hear back from me, from the internal email within like a day or two, reach out to my OU email, my other one, because for some reason maybe I missed it or something, because I am really, really good about checking my email. And most importantly, like I said, I'm here to help you succeed. These are just some general tips for online courses. Like I mentioned, keep on track, make sure you're going through those lectures. It does require a lot of independent study and learning. I try my best to stimulate that in-class environment through the use of videos, recorded lectures, WebEx meetings, or even like a recorded review. I do encourage students to reach out to me, maintain active participation within the course. Don't ever hesitate, reaching out to me. I like working with students. I love it. And, always feel free to, ask me any question. Completely fine with that. Review the course schedule and plan ahead, because it does move pretty quick. Make sure you review the resources, videos, lectures, etc. Make sure you're checking in on Moodle, making sure that you're also checking the announcement forum. Sometimes I'll add new content or clarification on a certain area. So just check in there, when you can. Consistent workspace free of distractions to study and complete assignments. And then I have the technical support numbers down below. So that will conclude this video on the course calendar and course syllabus. I will post a quick video that covers that first module, so that way it kind of helps you understand where to kind of start with it. But like I mentioned, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. I also have a quick quiz on our Moodle site that you can take. It's just regarding the course syllabus that reviewed it and all that. If you have questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm looking forward to a great semester with all you guys, so just let me know if you need anything. Thanks, and have a great day.